Thank you for tuning in to our second episode. My name's Alina Mir.
My name's Tanvina Kirikanti.
I'm Anushka Kamasadi.
And I'm Shriji Patel.
Yeah, Alina, do you want to start us off?
Yeah, so today we're going to be focusing and talking about how, we really started. So I feel like the first thing that we kind of really did as a nonprofit organization was visit these elementary schools. So we were honored enough to have a couple of the principals in our school district, PTHSD, actually reach out to us to have us do these presentations at their elementary schools.
Yeah.
Which is surprising because elementary schools just sound like so young. But our mission is kind of, targeting these young kids and educating them about this, so that they can make an educated decision for themselves later on. So if someone wants to go ahead and talk about, what these presentations included.
Like Alina said, after the principals reached out, feel like, okay, so we're getting, so like people are ready to listen to us. Low-key, this is
yes. So then we were like, okay, what do we do with, what do we present? So we kind of modified our AP research presentation and made
that
it
had
to
such higher level of information.
So there's just straight facts basically. So we had to kind of tone it down, make it more enjoyable, something that the kids would really interact with and like. So yeah, we made a Canva presentation and that went really well. So Anushka, can you talk more about Eastlake, our first presentation?
I'd like that. Okay, so that was the one where Mr. Kerr was so gracious to arrange transportation for us.
Yeah.
And I remember we were getting out the building. We were all so scared. But Alina just pulled out her phone and we just started recording, and we have all those clips up on our Instagram. Should you want to share our Instagram?
Yeah, Pure.Air Project. Go check it out. And follow.
Yeah, so we did that, and just before the presentation, just going back, we all decided to wear coordinating, wear coordinating outfits, and okay, we're gonna wear white tops, jeans. Anyway, just
that. We wanted to see professional, You had to be good mentors for these elementary schools.
Yeah, they planned it all the way down to the centimeter.
I don't know what we thought we were going into because we were kind of scared. At first we were like, okay, they're kids, what are they gonna think? But then the moments leading up to it, we saw the size of these classrooms. Even though it's just I think the first one was only 5th graders.
Yeah, it was only 5th grade.
Yeah, they were wrapping up with this day of activity they had, and we came in and we're like, okay, this classroom is kind of full, and because these are elementary schools, they're not as big as an auditorium, or I don't know what we expected, honestly. And we were just kind of shoved up to the front of the room, and there were kids all the way up to the front, and really
surprising how many kids you could fit into a classroom.
I know, right?
So many.
Yeah, because I believe there were 2 5th grade classes.
Yeah, there's 2.
In my elementary school, that's how it was. So they just fit all the 5th grade classes into one classroom. So when we walked in, it was kind of intimidating, and also again, it was our first one, so we didn't really know what to expect, I feel like. But we handled it well.
Yeah.
Again, we were just literally at the top, and everyone was so. I mean, the kids didn't really know what to expect either.
I feel like they kind of just even when you're younger, you kind of look up to someone older than you, and you're like, oh,
yeah,
they're kind of cool. They're high schoolers. Why?
No, we hope so. I hope they thought we were cool.
They were just excited to have us there, and then I remember the teachers were just
the teachers from the back too, and they were listening, and I was like, okay, so
yeah.
It's not just the kids listening to us. We have teachers too, and even as adults, I didn't know how much they knew too. So I thought, okay, this is probably mundane information for them. They probably know, but I felt like they learned something as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, and again, before starting our presentation, the teachers and even the principal that we reached out to, they're very supportive and kind before stepping on to this presentation, and yeah, they were very kind.
Yeah. So I think we underestimated the kids, so we started very
low level.
Yeah, the first slide literally asked does anyone know what vaping is? So
yeah, so
Alina asked
that was
questions.
Actually my slide. I started off, and just to kind of get these kids engaged, I remember I asked them how many of you know, raise your hand if you have heard of a vape. And literally the whole classroom, everyone just raised their hands and just shot up.
Yeah, and we gave each other looks because we were that's so young, and they knew. And just going back, I remember we thought these questions out because we're like, okay, this is a presentation, but we have to be engaging. Like, so what questions are we going to ask? When are we going to ask? And that was one of our first questions. And that kind of just set the tone for everything and gave us an understanding of how much these kids knew. And I feel like that kind of eased us out. But how did you guys feel going through the presentations? Because we all covered different parts.
Yeah, I mean, again, as you said, setting the tone. Just after I asked this question, like even just knowing that these high school kids are here, everyone was just so excited to have us there and just be doing something out of their class time and work, whatever. So again, that did really set like a positive vibe, and I feel like that also helped us feel more confident. So while we were going through it, we did try to be as interactive as possible so that these young kids stay engaged. So it was kind of scary because again, it was our first time, but I feel like we did really well, and they again, we're just so excited to have us there.
Yeah. So then our next slide, like we moved into some of the chemicals, and Anushka like had a really nice slide, which is just like cartoons, but it was something like an analogy that you made. Can you talk about the analogy you made with like a car battery and like a toaster?
Oh, right.
Yes,
So, okay.
yeah.
So that slide basically just has it had a bunch of icons on it, and the icons correlate to the chemicals that are in vapes. So I just asked the kids, like, okay, you see the floor cleaner, like the floor cleaners that our janitors so graciously use to like clean our schools. Like, yeah, we love to see clean schools, but is that something you want in your body? And they were they're kind of shocked. They were appalled.
They were disgusted.
Yeah. And then I was like, you guys know batteries, right? It's the same thing that's in batteries goes in your vapes. So they just like were more and more shocked, and that was just like one way that was a slide I structured. So I feel like putting the chemicals in a perspective of like some real world things that they knew really helped break down the information. And that's kind of how we did most of our presentation, just breaking it down into things that they already know, and it wouldn't seem like a whole new topic.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so I think another slide that we did, again, we tried to be as interactive as we could. So if anyone wants to talk about anyone before, but I know towards the end of the presentation, we did like a kind of raise your hand if you like to dance, raise your hand if you like to sing. Like to do sports. And, obviously they all raise their hands for everything. And then at the end, Shiji, if you want to talk about how we kind of
I wrote in all caps, like, you cannot do this activity if you vape. So they were all like, after that, like that presentation, they're all just like, okay, I'm not going to ever vape. Like our message like really was sent out to them, and they're also very like, they participated a lot, and their questions were like really like good questions. Like we thought they were going to ask like dumb questions, but they're really intelligent kids. So Atanvi, do you want to elaborate?
And like an activity that we had that was like really engaging for the kids was we taught them how to say no, or like if someone offers them a vape, like how do you say no to them without feeling like you're like alone or lost. And one of the activities that we had was we gave them a scenario. We told them like pretend like you're in
we like called them up.
Yeah, we called some kids up who wanted to volunteer, and we're like, okay, pretend you're in a hangout, and Ben offers you to vape because they're like bored or whatever. What do you say to that? And their responses were really mature, well thought out. Was there any response that like stood out to you the most?
So in the previous slides before that, we did go over ways to say no, like your standard response is no and stuff. But there's one thing, it's like when you teach a child something and then they remember it, and it's not like they just said copy paste word for word what we said on the slides, but they put it in their own way. Like one great example we had is like you're at a hangout or whatever, and you say like, oh, my mom called me, or I think it's time to go, my mom's here. So they just put in their own words, like, okay, you're at like so and so's house, what do you do? And then I think one girl or whatever, she's like, oh, my mom's calling me, I think I have to step away, let me just take this call. So just like they're not trying to give a right answer, even though you're like in front of this group of people, you're anxious and you want to give the right answer, but it's just thought out
and creative.
Yeah. I don't know how else to say it. It was just like not copy paste.
Yeah, we could tell they were paying attention. Like,
yeah.
That also was like kind of like relieving to us, because we were like, okay, they understand what we're saying. They're not like, zoning out. And it was a good presentation.
Yeah, because again, it's not only important to teach them the facts, but it's also important to teach them and provide them ideas of how they could, go about the situation if them themselves are
Right.
in
Yes.
this. So I think we did a good job addressing all the aspects of the facts and knowledge and educating them, and then also, again, providing them support for ways to say no. So us doing that little activity after our presentation was really helpful and helped them, apply what they learned. So again, they're also just so excited to participate and come up. So if someone wants to talk about the Kahoot we did after that.
So after we finished our presentation, we wanted to test their knowledge. So we had a little 5-question Kahoot, and surprisingly, they got all of them correct. Not a single student answered any questions wrong. So this just shows how engaged they were. And again, as Alina said, that we felt really relieved that this was our first elementary school presentation. So we were kind of stressed and panicking. But after the presentation, we were like, oh wow, these kids are really intelligent and they're participating, they're engaged. So now we felt confident to keep continuing spreading the word.
I mean, the atmosphere in the room was like I don't know, it kind of exciting, and the kids were really excited to participate in the Kahoot. They had good answers, and as soon as they saw a question, they knew the answer. It was amazing.
And I think we kind of just expected something different, is because we came from a high school environment where for years we've been seeing students just being ignorant towards presentation, because we usually were just told okay, you have an assembly in the auditorium, it's on drug abuse, it's on mental health or whatever, and everyone just sees it as an opportunity to skip class. And I think that's what we kind of expected from the elementary schoolers. But when we went there, they were truly paying attention, they were engaged. They asked some really good questions. Can we go into some of these questions, because a lot of the presentations were quite similar? So I wanted to touch upon some of these questions because they're really thoughtful.
I remember one student, we talked about addiction, and she was very curious about what exactly is addiction and in vaping. So she brought up a really amazing scenario, and it was is addiction to vaping similar to being addicted to scrolling on TikTok? And I'm like, that's a really good question, because there's so many different types of addiction, and they all fall into one category. Where addiction is where you can't stop doing something. So it was a very good question, and I was just surprised she could connect those two together, especially being at such a young age. So
yeah, I remember another question we had was just kind of comparing vapes to cigarettes. So I'm not really sure what it was, but asking if vaping's worse than cigarettes or what's the difference. So again, just the fact that they could connect and make these connections. And then another comment that we did get from a student was just kind of talking about their experience with one of their family members. So again, just us being able to provide them with these resources of how they can go about the situation, even with people in their lives.
Yeah, touching upon what Alina said, it was kind of we got an opportunity to be the safe space. Maybe the student wouldn't have admitted this to a teacher or a counselor, but they were given the forum to be my family member is one of these people who needs help. Because we usually tell the students if you feel someone or you yourself are struggling, reach out to a trusted adult or some of the great organizations out there. But they're but the trusted adult in my life is the person vaping. What should I do? And that took me aback. I think it took all of us aback, because we all looked at each other. But I feel just being given that opportunity to have that type of interaction is really great.
Yeah, so also going back, I think at the end of our presentation, we also did include these resources for these students if them themselves need it, or again, if someone in their life needs it. So we did include talking to your school counselor, or again, just a trusted adult, and also just teaching them the power that they have the power and ability to say no themselves.
Right.
So I think us instilling that in their mindset, them themselves, they have the power to make a decision and say no, and then all while also having the knowledge and being educated on this topic.
Yeah. Tommy, do you remember any specific instances during the presentations?
Okay, so I think this was in the later presentation, and it was one of the larger presentations at the
the
gymnasium.
largest one we had was 100 kids. So
yeah, that was with the 4th and the 5th graders.
Yeah.
Yes. We had a couple technical difficulties there, but we got past it. And I can't remember the exact question, but I I don't know, a lot of the kids just made good analogies with what they already knew, and they asked us really good educated questions. I can't think of an exact question. Like, do you remember anything?
Yeah. But
Do you remember, Alina?
I'll just say, regardless of, these questions, that specific questions you're asking, I feel like just the response we got from them really gave us a new perspective of maybe new things that we need to include in our presentation, or more things that we should take into consideration just into our nonprofit overall.
Mhm.
So again, just these children being so enthusiastic and having like such an open mind, and
Right.
just all these like perspectives, it really did also help us. It also gave us feedback in a way.
So, I mean, we did 2 more presentations after Eastlake, Rockaway Meadow, and Knollwood, and
which we'll get later into the other episodes. So
Yeah. Perhaps when we get our principals on one of our episodes, stay tuned. We can discuss how they felt about our presentation and how that went about, because we really want to share some of their perspectives, the student perspectives. But yeah, just to like sort of like
summarize.
finish things up, I just want to share one more experience I had from the elementary schools. I had this because I remember this because it pertained to my AP research topic. This girl asked like a very economic question,
Ooh,
which
yes.
I didn't even anticipate, because like, what kind of why would you think of the economy at such a young age? She was like, why can't we ban vaping altogether? Which is a question a lot of people had. And how I answered it was from the economic perspective, that a lot of the jobs and our economy, as like the US as a whole, depends on the vaping industry, and everything from transportation to production to the factories. People work in those. So the moment we ban vapes, a lot of people lose jobs. So I was kind of just correlating that back to like, okay, so your parents do a job, and these people are also doing jobs. They're still jobs at the end of the day, regardless of what their outcome is in the world. So it's more about making an educated choice than limiting or trying to ban something. So, and that's kind of like the message we took forward, and we want to take forward, like making educated choices instead of making some extreme.
Yeah, something that they would regret later on in life. We educated them enough when they're reach the age of like 21, they can make their own educated decisions. So